Hello and welcome to the Emerald City Video Podcast. I'm Russ and this is Zach.
Hello. How goes it?
Weirdly, this is the first time this has happened in a while. This is the second new release wall episode in a row.
hmm And also, have we done it? I don't know if we've done a new release wall where we're not in the car
In the
or
car.
or like at
I'm
your
sure we
house or something like
have
that.
because you've been out of state for a while, but I can't
But
think of when it
but
was.
like you don't usually see usually don't see like
That's
movies
true.
first run. So I'm trying to think of what the last thing might have been. That wasn't like something that we
Guardians
got
3, maybe.
screeners.
I,
Maybe? I don't know. I feel like
uh,
that was before I moved
oh,
though.
the 430. Did we do the 430 movie? No,
No,
because
no,
it
we
got
never did.
folded into like
Yeah.
a.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. So
Yeah.
anyway,
So it's been a while in any
yeah.
event. Um, but we're here to talk about Superman, which we've already talked about once or twice. Uh, uh, I did, without getting into any detail, because I shouldn't do that on the podcast, but
Mhm.
I did get an email today from somebody offering an interview based on one of our previous rants, which I think was from the Superman episode.
Nice.
It was like somebody reaching to us to be like, hey, shit that you talked about HBO Max. We have a different streaming service. Do you want to talk to our guy?
Yeah, sure. I'm
So,
actually going to be
but
I theoretically it's for the progressive. They still haven't gotten back to me, but I got a
mm,
screener of this new film called Sovereign. It's got Nick Offerman as
oh yeah, that's
basically a
right.
sovereign citizen. And
Mhm.
who else? Dennis Quaid is in it. Is a I think he's either a sheriff or law enforcement. And basically, it's about sovereign citizens, like the like, am I being detained kind of guys. And
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not a comedy. It's very much not a comedy.
No,
And so
that's
I'm interviewing the director on Monday. So that'll be a future ECV episode, Visu News crossover, possibly also
yeah, yeah.
Progressive Magazine crossover. So
Somehow I doubt Dennis Quaid will have much of a sense of humor about it. It's just
man, it's
Mm.
I did actually talk. I actually talked to him. I think it like was it at CPAC? I'm trying to remember. Like, there's some point I'm pretty sure I talked to him. I did interview the director of his was it not energy weapons? I think it's his. He did like a documentary. He produced it and voiced it about like electromagnetic
Oh, was it one of
pulses.
those
I
Angel
think.
Entertainment movies or whatever?
I don't know if it was Angel, but because I think it was a lot more independent than Angel, which actually has
Okay,
production, but it was a documentary. And like
yeah,
I interviewed the director and I was like, I can't use any of this. Like, it's just like, because I was at CPAC and like, I don't necessarily like push back on
yeah,
things like at CPAC because I'm just trying to get information from people for the most part. And I was just like, oh
yeah,
man, he was very enthusiastic about me talking about the film and everything like that. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think you want me talking about the film because yeah, I have
yeah.
a copy of it somewhere. Like, but anyway, we're talking about Superman. And the
Yes.
not the yes, the most controversial film of the year.
God. Just it's so funny because I wrote a blog post on emeraldcityvideo.net, which is now like I'm kind of funneling all of my blog posts through there, and you'll still see them on Substack and Patreon and all that kind of stuff. But
Mhm.
like, um, I'm funneling everything through emeraldcityvideo.net and set up like prepaid for a couple of years for a WordPress account there so that I can have other people with bylines. In fact, Kevin Allen, who like has been a long time commenter on my stuff going all the way back to the Newsarama days.
Yeah,
Wrote a piece today for me for talking about the Superman movie.
nice.
Um, but I wrote a piece about whether or not Superman is an illegal alien
Mhm.
because there was a meme that was circulating earlier last week, I guess, or earlier this week
Yeah.
that said, I can't remember the exact verbiage, but it basically is, I can't wait to see. It had the Superman crest from the movie, and it said like, I can't wait to see an illegal alien totally fuck up an evil billionaire.
Yeah.
Um, and it was being shared widely, and a good time was had by all. And I just was able to kind of tie it into this story that I already wanted to write, which was like Superman in the '80s when they did the reboot. I don't know if it was intentional. It feels like it probably was, just because it was the Reagan era. But like they mocked the origin slightly. in a way that gave Superman birthright citizenship. Um, as
Well, that doesn't
in
matter
the
anymore
80s,
either. So,
yeah, but in the 80s, Krypton got reinvented as like a science world. So instead of being a world of Supermen who inexplicably cut off their planet when it was like a world of super scientists. And so he like when they shot him off to Earth, it was in like electric womb basically.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so the baby was not yet born and did not deliver until he landed in Kansas.
yeah,
And so on paper, uh, Clark was born in Kansas in the 80s mythology.
yeah.
Um, and it was just one of those silly ideas that I had where it's like, I want to talk about this for a couple of hundred words because it seems like a funny thing to do right now.
So,
Um,
so one thing,
and
this,
then
yeah, go ahead.
like,
Sorry. Yeah.
but then this meme came up and like there was a dude who was like trying to butt actually the meme. And so I wrote a whole article, basically combined my original idea with clowning on this one British film writer who probably didn't deserve it but annoyed me.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, that's actually what I was like immediately kind of like talking about. We'll go back to talk about the immigrant issue
mhm,
because it is a thing in the film. It's definitely a
mhm,
conversation that's being had, whether it's,
right.
definitely, out there screaming, but is the whole
Yeah.
metahuman thing. So like I didn't get this, like they separate, they have, there's the opening sequence, not, I mean, it's not spoilers, but like there's an opening, not really title card sequence, but it goes, what, 3,000 years ago, 30 years ago, and three weeks ago, and like there's text that comes on the screen, kind of
3 years
catching
ago,
up.
3 weeks ago, 3 hours or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I thought there was a big, but like they talk about metahumans, and
It's
then
like
they
a
go,
it's like a
comma, like,
Star Wars crawl,
yeah, yeah,
honestly.
yeah. But they talk about metahumans and Superman as separate beings, as separate things. And so like
Hmm.
I do believe that at least like James Gunn, I don't know if the characters within the film are really separating them thing, but I think that like I don't think that they're believing, at least as the series goes on, especially that
Yeah.
Superman is a metahuman, even though there is like a lot of conversation
Yeah.
that Superman believes that he's a human, in a real way,
Right.
or like talks about himself as a human in a real way.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the big thing, honestly, is that like, and this is part of the reason that I wrote it in the way that I did that blog post, is because it feels to me like a distinction without a difference.
Yeah.
Um, they uh like it seems to me that there's actual scientific reality and then there's like colloquial
Yeah.
language
Yeah.
and both are correct in terms of how you use them in English.
Hmm.
um, very briefly, just to touch, so for anybody who didn't read the piece, might be wondering what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Um, this one British film writer had chimed in to basically say, well, he's not in the movie. He's not an alien. He's a metahuman. And I said, well, metahumans and aliens are different things.
Hmm.
And ordinarily, I wouldn't like step in and correct you, but look, like you pedantic, so I'm going to be pedantic back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's like, "Well, you should watch the movie," because he had gone to one of those screening events where you
Yeah.
got to see the first like half an hour of the movie.
Yeah.
We'd seen the opening crawl, and I think there might be a scene where somebody refers to Superman as a human. Um, in the first half an hour, I'm not positive, but in any event, like the it is clear in the movie that he is an alien. Aliens are definitely distinct from metahumans, but metahuman, for the sake of DC, is kind of like mutants
Yeah.
in the X-Men movies. Um, like it's a whole class of the population who, based on their genetics, don't always can develop superpowers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I'm literally drawing. I'm drawing a Venn diagram
yeah,
of that. I'm like,
we should scan that.
I'm gonna make a graphic
Yeah,
of it. Like there was just something in my head. I was just like, oh, that would be a thing. Um,
yeah.
but I love a good Venn
But
diagram.
so
So
like in the comics and on TV, like where the Arrowverse had similar like
mhm.
etymological issues. Um, it's not uncommon for people to refer to the alien superheroes as um, metahumans just
Mhm.
because like they're people with powers and they hang out with other people with powers and all those other people are all metahumans.
Yeah.
And so it's like saying, it's like a teacher saying, "Okay, boys and girls, quiet down," and like there's one random non-binary kid in the class,
Yeah.
and it's like that doesn't apply to you, but also it does apply to
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
because you know what I'm saying. I'm just
Hmm.
saying, like colloquially,
Yeah.
boys and girls is a way to say people. Um, and so to me, like I think that's the big thing is like this was picking an argument because he was like, but I saw the first half an hour, and in the opening crawl they mentioned metahumans.
Yeah.
Um, and to me, I'm just like, even if they do call Superman a metahuman in the movie, which I do think happens once or twice. Again, it's always people, not like Superman doesn't call himself that.
Yeah.
Superman talks about himself being a human,
Yeah.
culturally a human. Um, but uh, but in any event, like even if they call him that, like that it's incorrect to call him a metahuman in the colloquial sense,
Yeah.
but it's also not correct to call him a metahuman in the tech biological sense.
Yeah.
Um, and so if you're going to be pedantic about it, then you can sit here and have a pointless argument for a really long time
Yeah.
because it's like, well, technically we're both right.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it is
but
just one of those things. I mean, because I mean, I think the big point that you made, it's frustrating when I don't know. I mean, it's like without pulling like a Neil deGrasse Tyson kind of like, well, actually, which I think you actually start, well, like
yeah,
you at least like shared on social media with a well, actually, but it is one of those like frustrating things where it's just like, oh my God, every single time these films come out, I feel like do 10 seconds of research on things, but that's just, and somebody who doesn't know like a
well, that's
lot about comics, but yeah.
one of the things I said definitely in the first draft of the story. I don't remember if it made it all the way into what I published, but like
Mhm.
I had in there that was like, studios, I am begging you to just fucking have invite one person who's seen any of the movies and TV shows that came out in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Because like, and again, like I'm dogpiling one rand who has a film hasn't like he's reviewed two thing like he reviews so infrequently that his review Flash is still visible on the front page of his WordPress.
Yeah.
Um, but so like it's not entirely fair to like pick on this guy, but it
Yeah.
just the thing it annoyed me not only that he was being pedantic, but also that when he was like, well, he's a metahuman. Um, actually he's a metahuman, whatever that is. And I'm like, it was so dismissive, and it felt
Yeah.
like he was like, well, fuck this movie.
I mean, and also the big
Um,
thing is that it's dismissive of
and
this meme. That's not the point. It's not an argument actually. The
yeah,
the the meme
yeah.
here is not actually it literally says I cannot wait to watch an illegal alien absolutely ruin the plans of a billionaire with a Superman logo. I feel I think
Yeah.
is I think the it's Gonzo is his last name, at least what he goes by, is who created it, I think. He's a great artist,
Oh,
does like
I
comic
didn't
book
know
stuff.
who created it. I've seen it like on. I've
He
seen it all over
shared
the
it,
place.
and he's like
Okay,
he's big on immigration issues and also
the kind of person who
a
makes
comic
those.
book
Yeah.
artist, an
Is it
illustrator.
Gonzalo? Because I know there's a Gonzalo that I follow on Blue
I
Sky.
feel that like I only reason I follow him is because when I was like researching for a comic book that I was potentially trying to put
Yeah.
together, and he was like the top name that I was just like, oh my God, everybody was recommending him. I think actually, Derek Robertson, I think actually recommended him, I think, as like
Okay.
a person to talk to. So that's actually why I follow him on like almost every
Yeah.
social media platform. But anyway, that's beside the point.
We'll
But it's
try to
just
remember
like
to put it in the show notes if we.
I'm not, like I said, I'm not 100% sure. He shared it kind of as if it was his,
Yeah.
but it wasn't. It was kind of me implying that, so it could be wrong. Anyway,
Right.
but the whole point is that like it's just like it's not about the fact that like whether it's like called he's a person who came from another place. He is a refugee, and he came here
Yeah.
illegally, which is made in the film multiple times. Like there's points about his travel and leaving and coming and going and his place in society.
Hmm.
And he's, the parlance. I mean, I use undocumented immigrant, or a refugee or whatever, but like that is the parlance. That is how we talk
Yeah,
about, unfortunately, that's how we talk about human beings that come from, say, Mexico and come into America without, going through our insane immigration process. And so it's kind of missing the point to be pedantic and to be claiming to be right. But anyway, so let's talk about the film. We talked all kind of around
I
it.
was gonna say, yeah,
Yeah.
we're now 20 minutes into
Yeah.
reviewing this.
Like random guy on Twitter. Um, but what's it? So, I mean, I guess let's just start off with like, what did you think about the film?
I liked it a lot. I thought in very much the way that I kind of expected to like it, which is that Gunn does really good character work, and he's got an earnestness to him that comes through even when he's being snarky. And so like I thought that like they dialed the earnestness up to 11,
Yeah.
which was in part I think to kind of differentiate this take from Man of Steel and those that came after. Um, Certainly, I don't think there's any bad blood between him and Snyder. They just did a Rick and Morty cameo together.
Yeah.
Um, but but I do think like if you have people complaining like, oh, it's confusing to have another new Superman already, it's like, well, if we make him as different as humanly possible, that's going to help.
Yeah.
Um, the one like the but in any event, like it's a very character driven movie. I thought all the character work was really good. I thought that a lot of the characters who had like small parts um were depicted in a fun, interesting way. Like I thought Metamorpho I thought was terrific. I think like if you between this and Bill and Ted 3, um if you need a guy who can like emote and like give you humor and pathos and sadness through 120 pounds of makeup,
Yeah.
just fucking Anthony Carrigan is your guy.
Yeah.
Just get that dude.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you remember, he was Dennis, the like robot guy in Bill and Ted 3.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
and like he was hilarious in that movie. Like he
Yeah.
stole scenes. And he was great in this. I thought that they really did a good job of nailing the character of Rex, which is a character who got about 4.5 minutes of total screen time.
Mhm.
Um, they didn't go in exactly the way I thought they were going to, which is both nice and not because I was like, oh, I like this idea that I have. But I really liked what they did with him. I'm looking forward to seeing more of him. I assume that we're gonna get some version of the Terrifics, which is DC's version of the Fantastic Four,
Mhm.
um, where Mr. Terrific is the leader. Um, Fan who's basically Invisible Girl, Metamorpho, who's basically and then Plastic Man. Uh, but like that book was one of the ones that was on James Gunn's desk, like when they announced the movies.
Yeah.
Um, Along with All Star Superman and the Long Halloween and all of these things very obviously influencing the new universe. But um, but I liked him a lot. I liked Mr. Terrific a lot. Mr. Terrific. Not only did I like him a lot, but I was pleasantly surprised by how different he was from his Arrowverse counterpart.
Okay.
Um, like basically the Arrowverse version of Mr. Terrific was one of those guys. They had one in every show.
Mhm.
That was like an uber nerdy, kind of socially awkward tech guy.
Yeah.
And I thought that character was pretty likable in the context of the show, but like he never got real time to shine because he was part of this team of heroes who were always you got to serve all the characters and
Mhm.
especially you got to serve the character of the show.
Yeah.
um and I thought that Mr. Terrific had some really good scenes in here. I thought he like they did some interesting cool shit with him, and I want to see more of him.
Definitely.
um
Yeah.
and I thought Lois and Clark worked really well. I liked their dynamic, and I think that like especially coming off of both Superman and Lois and the animated Adventures with Superman, which I don't know if you've seen that yet.
No, I haven't. No.
Um, I'd recommend it. It's like it's very anime inspired.
Yeah.
It's a very different take on Superman. Super. It's like you remember how in the New 52 they introduced like the version of the costume that looks like the one in the movie with the collar, like the big chunky boots,
Yeah.
and like it was like this Krypton armor that he could just like think about it and it would like appear on him like Venom.
Oh, okay. I never really
Um,
got too much into New 52. I don't
yeah, well, so
yeah.
that's how the costume works. He didn't do the shirt rip in the New 52. He could just
Yeah.
like the costume could just appear on him. Um,
We didn't get a
they
shirt
have
anyway.
that.
Sorry. I just realized we didn't get a classic.
That's true. We did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's interesting. But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Um, but so in my adventures with Superman, because it's so manga inspired, he once again has a costume that can just like appear on him, but he gets like a magical girl transformation every time. It's like a fucking Sailor Moon cutscene.
Nice.
Um, it's a charming little show.
Yeah.
It's really good. I'm glad that they're keeping it around, even though like it's clearly not this universe.
Yeah.
Um, Jack Quaid is Superman in it.
Hmm.
Uh, which is one of those like real weird to have him in both those and a legit Superman project.
Yeah.
Um, uh, so funny because I'm 90% sure that his dad was offered Superman at one point. I think that he was one of the guys who they looked at like for the movie that eventually went to Brandon Routh.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh God.
but in any event, like especially with those two shows, which are very heavy on the Lois Supermanship as like foundational to the entire show itself.
Yeah.
Um, I think that it was really important to nail that chemistry because I really liked Amy Adams as Lois, but
Mhm.
like she's a great actor. She didn't really do much as
Yeah.
Lois. Like I liked the writing for Lois in the sense that I liked her being a real reporter.
Yeah.
Like we got to actually out researching and pursuing and pounding the pavement in
Mhm.
Man of Steel, um, which we do see a little bit of here. It's funny because the Daily Planet newsroom is in order to get them all in one place and kind of introduce those characters to us.
Yeah.
It's treated a little bit more collaborative than any newsroom I've ever been a part of. You
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's like, no, Lane Olson, you go over here and write an article, and we're gonna sit and wait for you so we can copy edit.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I mean,
and I'm
to be
like,
fair,
that's
there
not
is
how.
like only one thing going on, like when the world is
Yeah, yeah,
ending. It's just
that's
like,
very true. Yeah,
and we can hold off on the person of
yeah,
interest story for a day, while
yeah,
literally the city splits in half. So,
yeah.
but
But
yeah.
anyway, my the only thing I'm really critical of is that the story is the story is shaky in places. I actually really like the overall plot. I like the big conflict that they introduce with his like him struggling with his alien heritage and stuff. Um, I read a review, I think from the Guardian, that said like for a man of action, this Superman feels like this happens to.
Mhm.
And I don't fully agree, but I do think that this movie is very inspired by All Star Superman, which is a very episodic story. And I think because this movie is also kind of like there's a lot of little things that happen
Yeah,
are all
100%. Yeah.
kind of siloed off. I can see why people think that the story meanders. I actually think it's a pretty tight story, but there are some weird pacing issues in the middle. I paired it when I was talking with my wife after the movie. I compared it to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, where there's that great opening and there's that great finale. And then in the middle, there's a chunk of time where they're just like hanging out on Eagle Planet
Yeah.
and like Peter's getting to know Star Lord
Yeah.
or Peter's getting to know Ego. And you're just like, okay, guys, we get it.
Mhm.
You can stop or dumping anytime now.
Yeah.
Uh, but so what did you think? Because I just kind of
Yeah, no, 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 no. I mean, I didn't want to, because I mean I don't there's nothing you say that I disagree with. I I really dug it. It took a while, I'll say, to get out of this is a very different Superman than I think that
Yeah.
like the someone like me has been exposed to. Like there might be, there's a lot more options. I haven't read the comics in decades. And
Mm-hmm.
so this is like a brand new kind of world and kind of the way they do it. Um, he really grew on me. It took, I would say, probably maybe a quarter into the film is when I was just like, okay, this is, we always have that theory is it's like you get to have this Superman, you have this Superman, you have this Superman. Stop
Yeah.
shitting on everybody else's Superman. Um, I'm kind of a like
Yeah.
I really like Brandon Routh's Superman. I didn't like the film as much, but I like
Mm.
his Superman a lot.
Yeah.
I love Man of Steel still. you know,
Mm.
I'm actually not that huge fan of Christopher Reeve. It is perfectly fine films. And but like I it's not something I actively rewatch. If I'm gonna sit down and watch a Superman film, it's probably gonna be Man of Steel. Um, and
Mm.
or maybe even BVS, and so
Mm.
this was really great. It's such a he feels younger in a way that I haven't seen, even though obviously Man of Steel was like a brand new, it's like
Yeah.
he was kind of like coming out as Superman as this, and this is like kind of 3 years on,
Mm.
implied in the film, or not implied, it says it in the opening title cards, but
Yeah.
um, he's still, he's a younger guy, definitely, trying to
Mm.
figure out what he is as a Superman. And
Mm.
I really just like the dialogue was great. I liked him being like really lighthearted and like what the platonic ideal of Superman is this to me is this
Mm.
character is that you think he's just like he is a genuinely good human being to the core. It takes so
Mm.
much to push him to the edge where he gets actually angry, which is what you want in a Superman.
Mm.
I mean, like again, I love the moody. This is I'm not that I'm giving a shit about shitting on,
Yeah. Yeah.
Man of Steel or anything like that. We've talked too many hours about it, but this was yeah, well, I think everyone on the internet could take like a 5 year break about talking about like there's like AFI's 100 best films haven't been talked as a combined thing as much as Man of Steel
Yeah.
probably has been talked about. And as much as I do like that film, it's not that great. It's not like, we could take a
Yeah.
couple years and talk about Casablanca a little bit more or something. I don't know what. Um, even on that scale. But he was such I don't know, it was fun. It was like fun. And I'm like realizing like, how many years we've had Superman. As somebody again who doesn't really watch the TV shows that much, like Dean Cain was the last Superman. We'll get to him, I'm sure on another episode. But and yeah, it's just like it stayed. I was kind of worrying because of the lighthearted kind of banter of it. I worried that it was gonna kind of go down the road of Guardians. And not again, that's not
Mm.
talking shit about Guardians, but it's just Guardians of the Galaxy and
Right. No, I
Superman are two
understand what you
different
mean.
fucking things. Um, and
Yeah.
it stayed away from that, I mean, and I think that, I think that the just is that spoilers? I don't think so. Justice Gang helped that, in that you had so many different character kind of vibes. Where it just, I mean, actually,
Mm.
to an extent, it did really feel like a kind of Guardians where you have all of these people. These people would not work together normally because they're not. It's like you watch the classic
Mm.
Justice League cartoons or anything like that, and they're kind of a they're written by it feels like they're kind of written by the same people to some extent, and it feels like
Yeah.
I'm talking about the classic, like 80s, 70s, whatever, earlier, like not anything
Yeah.
that's recent. But this really felt like the characters held their own, were their own people and not just serving
Mm.
positions, like we're like, well, Batman has to be this because then he counters Superman and and like that kind of thing. It's just that, there wasn't any of that vibe, which was great. My my one I would say I have like two kind of complaints about it. Was I fucking hate, and this is not just a complaint about this film, I fucking hate that POV flying shot. the close up. I
Oh
know it's a
yeah.
big thing that everybody's complaining about on the internet. I It doesn't bother me as much as everybody because they do screenshots and make it look really bad. I
Yeah,
just think
yeah.
it looks like a shit shot. I think it's a shitty
Yeah.
shot that is self-serving to the um like the selfie kind of, I think it's got to have that, like it's the GoPro
Mhm.
like wide shot. Like if you ever seen skydiving sponsored by GoPro, that's the shot
Yeah.
you're getting. And
Yeah.
I don't want it. I want it's Superman or it's black, it's any number of characters that they've used that on the show. They used it
Yeah.
on the what oh my god, the Rock's superhero.
Black Adam.
Black Adam. They used it in Black Adam as the
Yeah.
first time,
I
I
mean,
think, which is
honestly,
really bad
what's
because
funny,
his bald head. But yeah,
yeah, that's true. That's true. What's funny is that they used it in Supergirl, like they used it in the
yeah,
Arrowverse shows. Um, and I mean, obviously, the level of CG involved and stuff is way different, but it's the same technology. Like, actually, when we did a set visit, one of the other reporters who came with me, they like put her in a rig, and it's like this big hoop, and then
mhm.
there's a camera like out in front. And so like just like, oh, I know how they do that shot, and it's the
Yeah,
same whether you're spending $80 on an episode of a CW
yeah,
show
yeah,
or 150 on a Superman movie.
yeah.
Uh,
That I don't know. It's like
but
it wasn't bad enough that it took me out of things. I think it didn't help that there was a lot of people talking about
right,
it. And some
yeah,
unfair people and then some people like me, not that I'm saying I'm, not unfair. Maybe I'm unfair.
yeah, yeah. No,
But
it's
and some people just
good
talking
faith and
about.
bad faith. It's
Well,
a big
yeah, yeah.
thing when
No,
you're
this is definitely
criticizing.
good faith, but it's a technical thing for me is that it feels like there was some of
Yeah,
that in this film. Obviously, there's characters that are taking selfies a lot, and there's the cell phone.
mm-hmm.
This is really our first, like, I think it's our first like super. Did Man of Steel didn't really have cell phones as like a thing, right? I don't remember like because this
No,
film
I mean I think cell
cell
phones were
phones
in
are
those
yeah.
movies, but they certainly.
The,
I feel like there was probably selfies in like The Flash because there was so much goofy
yeah.
humor and like stuff, but I don't remember for sure.
Yeah. It's just
Um,
because I mean obviously that's like
but
this
yeah,
is
this is
yeah.
definitely in terms of big.
Mhm.
Yeah, this is the first time that we've had like social media really represented. Not just in the sense of like literally social media is part
Right.
of the plot, but also in the sense of like people doing selfies and people
Yeah.
to get pictures with super. Um, they did it in Samaritan,
And what? I'm
um,
sorry. Say it again.
which was Samaritan,
Oh, okay.
which was
Yeah.
Sylvester
Yeah. Fair.
Stallone's
Well, I was just
like
thinking this
indie
is our
superhero
first.
thing.
It
That he,
wasn't in Snyder's film because I mean like we do
no,
have the moment he confronts Nicholas Holt. Oh my God, what the fuck? My brain. Sorry.
Lex.
Like Lex Luthor. Jesus Christmas.
Yeah,
Sorry. The moment he confronts, that's already a clip that's been shared over there. So there's no spoilers, but like
yeah,
immediately
yeah,
his girlfriend pulls out her cell phone and starts filming, which is,
yeah.
it's a world that he needs to live in, which is incredibly different. And
Hmm.
I like the way that they use that in comparison, and they even have a like a conservative talk show host person in the movie,
Yeah.
and I won't. You can check on IMDb who it is, but it's I liked how they did that as opposed to how they like used turned the in the Spider-Man films where they had that as kind of a pushing character, and I think
Hmm.
they've done this in a couple superhero films where there's
Yeah.
something I like the fact that he was always away. It was kind of always on a TV, and it wasn't like a big thing. It was just kind of a
Yeah.
way to move the plot along, which is like kind of goes to my
Yeah.
second like kind of criticism of it, which is holy shit explanatory dialogue. Um, which everyone does really well in the film, because you have a lot of really good
Hmm.
talkers. And like it's newsroom, but I
Right.
mean like especially once we get the newsroom as a traveling crew together, which again we're trying to stay away from
Yeah.
spoilers, but that the fact that
Yeah,
they're
but
like kind of
people have
just
seen that in the trailers. Like
yeah, I just it's
people have seen
but
like them.
yeah.
Yeah.
But like the fact that like we have the dialogue, everyone's kind of explaining everything that's going on. And Lex Luthor's
Mhm.
scenes, like he's I mean, he's a great Nicholas Hoult, I think, is fantastically cast. Dear God, did you see the
Oh
story that supposedly he was in the running for Superman? He
yeah.
auditioned for Superman, and then they're like, "I got another role for you," which I think is like whether or not, it's just such a perfect story that it
I
almost feels
I
like too
actually
good. But
I actually believe that one because an early shortlist leaked
yeah.
for like who was going to win.
Mm,
And I don't remember everybody who was on it, but I do remember there was like five or six names, and Corin Sweat and Holt were on it.
yeah.
And I just remember like thinking at the time that I really didn't want Holt to be Superman,
Mhm.
not because he's not a great actor, but because it seemed like it would be so much of a repeat of what he did in X-Men.
Yeah.
Um, that I like because Hank was also very kind of even keeled, calmest man in the room kind of character a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And so like I was like a little against him as Superman when that leaked. And so obviously it could just be that somebody mischaracterized or miscontextualized what they were looking at as a shortlist.
Yeah.
Um, but like I'm inclined to believe because he was on a leaked shortlist
Yeah.
where people were
Yeah.
like, "Oh shit, Nick Holt's going to be Superman."
Yeah, I mean,
For like 2 days.
Gunn said he was auditioning for it. So,
Yeah,
so I mean, like, I'm gonna, I don't know why you would kind of like do a backhanded, like, well, we didn't give him the big role, but we gave him the secondary role.
yeah,
And it's just like that seems
yeah,
like unless it really, really happened, and it's a
mhm,
compliment, it is a complimentary thing where it's just like, I just have
yeah,
I have a hard time like picturing him. It's kind of like Nick Cage, where it's just like before the
yeah,
footage and before anything came out, like I'm just like I love Nick Cage, but can I see him
yeah,
as I can see him as Batman before I can see him as Superman. There's a look
yeah.
you
I
gotta
mean, he was
have, you
he was
know?
basically evil Batman and Kick-Ass.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, exactly.
um, what's funny actually now that I think about it is that ironically, and I'm 90% sure this is true,
Mhm.
Lee Pace was one of the finalists to be Star-Lord before they made him Ronan the Accuser.
Yeah.
And so this apparently is a thing that Gunn is just open to, where he's just like,
Yeah.
come on in and if you know, and again, like Gunn, this movie, there's no way to say this without sounding a little bit more dismissive than I want it to be, but this movie was so much about vibes. Like
Yeah.
again, like Gunn has this quote that's been making the rounds about how like the real kernel of what makes Superman work in this movie is that he's just it's all about kindness and it's about a guy just doing his best.
Mhm.
And I think that Gunn as a filmmaker has a lot of casting and a lot of set pieces that are like vibes based,
Yeah.
where it's just like I think this is going to work for my specific. He one of the things he said in one of the interviews where he was talking about not giving Nick Holt the part
Mhm.
is, and he said this with like Corn Sweat sitting right there, so I don't think this is like a backhanded thing at all. But
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
there are a lot of people who would argue that Nick Holt is a better actor, but he's not a better actor for this part in this movie,
Yeah.
and that you need to do to film is you can't just and I would argue that there's a degree to which um, there are a bunch of superhero actors who have been cast basically because it's like, oh man, he's gonna kill it, and it's like
Yeah.
sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
Mhm.
Um, but
Yeah.
uh, not that it's really a cautionary tale because it was only a cameo and it worked out reasonably well.
Mhm.
But like I would say the biggest cautionary tale, like casting based on who you think is gonna be like in that role is the fact that they gave John Krasinski that cameo as Reed Richards.
Mhm.
And everybody who watched that scene in Doctor Strange was like, oh man, he can't carry that dialogue. Like,
Yeah.
Jim from The Office can't say big smart words. um, and I
Yeah,
don't think
fair.
that's
Yeah.
fair. I think
Yeah, yeah.
Krasinski's actually a pretty good actor, and I think he'd be able to do it if they gave it to him.
Yeah.
But,
If
like,
that, I mean, I'm
it
sorry,
was
that
so
scene was
interesting.
horrible. Like I still like think
The
that
whole
is like
scene was, yeah, it
it
was kind
goes
of a
down as like
mess.
some of the worst like Marvel there is to me. But yeah, so I mean I think it's unfair on a couple different levels, but I agree
It
with you.
was
Yeah.
very goofy and fan servicey,
Yeah.
but you know what I mean though, because like
Mhm.
that, there were so many people who on the internet who were like, it's him or nothing, and then like in that scene, and people were like, oh, I didn't like that at all.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Um, and so I feel like, yeah, sometimes like somebody could seem right for the role in your head, but like you don't know the script.
Yeah. No,
um,
no.
yeah,
Yeah, no, I
I
mean,
will
and
say
that's
it's
yeah.
funny to me how. Oh, sorry.
No, I mean, like, I was just gonna like add on the fact that I mean, like, um, that's why Rachel, Brosnan, I always forget it,
Brosnan.
Brosnahan was so, so perfect for the Lois Lane character, because I absolutely love, like, honestly, I always thinking of is was kind of, was it Holly Hunter or was it, um, Hudsucker Proxy? Wasn't
Jennifer
Holly
Jason Lee.
Jennifer Jason Lee, sorry. It was like shorter woman who's
Yeah,
and like that snappy like journalist dialogue that she was
yeah,
able to like, which obviously she did so, with Mrs. Maisel. It's so
yeah,
fantastic. And so I was just like, yeah, she immediately sold me. Like, I mean, she was sold in the trailers, like the you could
yeah,
see that they had such good chemistry that you felt like that was like
yeah.
my only complaint. Like I like Lois Lane and I liked Superman in Man of Steel. I did the
Hmm.
interact like it just didn't mesh as well. It was fine. It was fine, but it
Well,
wasn't. It was like two
it's
very good
funny.
actors who are perfectly cast in their individual roles, but interacting, it was like
Yeah,
was not
it's like
there
Zack
as
Snyder
much.
didn't think to do a chemistry read.
I mean,
Um,
again, like I could definitely see that like tons of people thought that there was great chemistry there. It's definitely
yeah.
a like I just didn't think it was like again compared to this, which is like I'm like no, I totally believe they date. I totally
Here's
believe that they would be in a
here's where
relationship.
I would attribute that because I was thinking about this earlier. You were talking about like what a different Superman it is, and I think that part of the reason that the Superman and Lois stuff works better here, even though like those guys are both objectively terrific actors who are good in their roles.
Yeah.
Um, if you look at the story that Kevin wrote for Emerald City, he talks about putting the man back in Superman and about like this go all the way back the Adventures of Lois Clark, the '90s series. Um, when at the end of season three, I think when Clark proposes, it there's like a cliffhanger, and then at the beginning of season four, Lois says like proposing to me. Is it Clark or is it Superman?
Mhm.
Um, and in that show, like the explanation that Dean Kane's Clark gives is that like he's never not Clark. That Superman is his job,
Yeah.
and there are things that he like. There's airs that he has to put on for his job. Kevin in the story for me refers to it as like the retail voice,
Yeah.
like how there's a way that you have to talk to customers,
It's
and so like
oh my God.
the white voice from Sorry
The
to
thank
Bother
you.
You.
Yeah, sorry to bother you. Yeah, yeah, that's really yeah.
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 But so And I thought that was a really interesting observation because Man of Steel very much was he was Kal-El.
Mhm.
And one of the things that Kevin points out is it's not unique to Man of Steel. It happens all the time in the comics, especially when you have standalone graphic novels. Superman Earth One by John Michael Straczynski did, or Joe Michael Straczynski did the same thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, what it is like he goes out into the world to find himself in between high school and college,
Yeah.
and that's when he learns that he's an alien, and then it becomes like, well, I'm not really Clark then. And
Yeah.
it totally shifts his perspective, and Superman becomes the default character.
Mhm.
And I think that with Snyder's movies, he followed that model where Superman was the default character, and Clark was kind of not necessarily a disguise, but an afterthought.
Yeah.
Um, whereas in this movie, he's definitely Clark all the time.
Mhm.
Um, you know, like you see him the in the suit, you know, yelling at the dog and uh
Yeah.
yeah, and like being embarrassed. Oh, sorry, spoiler.
Yeah.
I guess we can censor that. Um, like you see him in this and it's like he's always Clark. Even when he's in the costume, he's always Clark.
Yeah.
And so like to me, that's my version of Superman. And that's funny because I have always said that I really like the Snyder version. That I think that like for my money, like you said, just in terms of like me sitting down and watching a movie that'll entertain me for 2 hours,
Yeah.
I would most of the time rather watch Man of Steel than Superman 78. But I'll put a caveat in there, which is that Superman 78 also depicted a version of Superman who was Superman first and Clark a distant second.
Yeah.
Like you got a lot more Clark in there, but
Mhm.
Clark was very much a caricature. Um,
Yeah.
like you see those first couple of minutes where in the new movie where Corn Sweat has like the broccoli haircut and he's like stumbling through the crowd and he's for work and blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And I was when I saw that in the trailer, that was one of the only things that I was kind of concerned about. Is I'm like, I don't like when Clark's a loser.
Yeah.
Um, you know, there's a really bad faith interpretation that somebody put out there. I can't remember who. That was basically like, well, Kent shows that Superman doesn't really like or respect humanity because he thinks that's who we are. He thinks that we're all these like bumbling fools who blah blah blah
Mhm.
blah blah. And I'm like, that's a very silly perspective. Like, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
that's not a serious take. It's in the same ballpark as people who are like, you know what? If Batman cared, he would just like spend his money on social programs. It's like, yeah, but then there's not a fucking movie, guy. Like, I'm sorry. Like,
I mean, to be fair, I feel like he could do both things. You could have a lot of
yeah, and in the
fun,
comics he
and then
does.
also you
Like they
could,
don't
yeah,
touch on it
yeah,
much in the movies,
yeah,
but like but in any event, like so like there are these like silly bad faith arguments, and
yeah,
one of them is that like when Clark is a bumbling idiot,
yeah,
it's because Superman does like that's his caricature of humanity. That he that's what he thinks we are. And I don't think that's fair. I think that's a silly argument. But
yeah.
I do hate it when like that. I grew up post John Byrne's Man of Steel. And in that reboot in the comics, they made Clark he wasn't like such a hapless loser anymore.
Mhm.
He played sports in high school before his powers fully came in. He was a reasonably popular, good-looking guy. Like even once he like put on the glasses and had to start like slouching and like changing his voice and stuff, like
Yeah,
he still like was an award-winning reporter who had a best-selling novel. Um, and so to me, like I didn't want to go all the way back to like the Christopher Reeve version where he's like intentionally spilling his drink in order to sell the
yeah,
idea that he's an oaf.
yeah,
And I was worried that they were going to do that. But they didn't, and I think the big reason they didn't because its own way, the Dick Donner film is just as much about an alien as the Zack Snyder film,
yeah,
and that this movie uh, and to a lesser extent Superman Returns, but like this movie is like about Clark, like it's
mhm,
about a guy who can do a lot of cool shit. Um, I think that's part of the reason that the dynamic works better. I don't think it's about necessarily even the chemistry between Cavill and Adams. I think it's more about the fact that like it's really hard to have chemistry with a god,
yeah,
and that's for all intents and purposes what he was in Man of Steel.
yeah.
And the
I mean, you
I
also,
don't
I
think that
mean,
this was on
that's also
purpose.
partially casting. Is that you have somebody that looks like
Oh
Henry
yeah,
Cavill, who is like, if we have a
yeah,
version of anyway, but
yeah.
I'm not going to
I will
explore my
say
sexuality right here.
uh, one of the things that somebody had written, um, and again, like a lot of these things are really dismissive of Man of Steel, or really dismissive of Snyder, or they're just straight up shit posting. But I still take a look at them and I'm like, huh, is there anything interesting to pull out of here? You
Mhm.
know? And somebody had pointed out that like it's really funny that like one of the more notorious moments that people bitched about in Man of Steel or in BVS
Mhm.
is when Batman says like, "Tell me, do you bleed?" Um,
Yeah,
and this movie, it's like he never fucking stops bleeding.
yeah, I
Superman's just
know.
bleeding all the time.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's funny. There's a scene in here where actually we'll have to save that for a spoiler episode
yeah, yeah,
later because
yeah.
we there's going to be a shorter than usual episode, by which I mean not 3 hours, but
Yeah.
also we're already over a regular
It's
podcast time.
it's
Um,
I mean, you can see
but
in the, see in the trailer, he is a this is a Superman that does bleed. This is a Superman that immediately
yeah.
gets his ass handed to him. Um and it's kind of great because it's, again, you had this kind of, golden god level Man of Steel Superman,
Hmm.
and especially in, well, yeah, in Man of Steel. And this one,
Hmm.
he's getting his ass kicked. I mean, again, this is trailer stuff, so it's not spoiler. He's getting his ass kicked by his dog,
Yeah.
which, by the way,
Yeah.
star of the film, like 100%
Yeah.
in so many ways, because the dog moves the plot forward. It's that saving grace because he doesn't have that.
Hmm.
Um, there's not that connection with some of the other superheroes that he
Hmm.
has, and the fact that it's just any moment that's like awkward, tense, or whatever,
Hmm.
he's a comic relief, and in a good way, not in a
Yeah.
goofy, not in a way that like they
Yeah.
would like might use like Jimmy Olsen or something like that. I would say my one other complaint is that,
Hmm.
okay, so all this stuff is happening. This is a little bit of spoilers, but all of this stuff is happening. No one's taking fucking photos,
Yeah.
Jimmy Olsen. I know that clearly Jimmy Olsen is just another reporter in this,
Yeah. Yeah.
but like, what?
Yeah.
No
No,
one has a
that's
camera. They have
definitely
like the
that's
whole
fair.
news crew. They have like the entire like office. And I'm like, mind you, it is
Yeah.
a honest version of a modern newsroom where they just have said fuck it about hiring
Yeah.
photojournalists, and they'll just buy. I'm sure there's a million
That's fair.
photojournalists
Yeah.
covering everything, and they'll just buy their work. Um,
Yeah.
but it was one of those. I'm like, this is why it was like Jimmy Olsen is. There's not a lot of like, obviously I have, Peter Parker in some Spider-Mans have gotten rid of that, which pisses
Yeah.
me off. At least in the movies. But it's it's a photojournalist. It's something that, come on, give me something here. Give me something. But at least he gave me the dog, which oh my God,
Yeah.
my whole theater was cracking up, and um, and then actually people clapped at the end of the film, which is like something I was just like, I
Yeah.
wonder
I
how
will
this is, because it
say
was, yeah.
I will say this movie, and a lot of it's the dog, but
Mhm.
also just like the way that the action was done.
Mhm.
Um, it feels more like family film,
Yeah.
not
Oh,
just
100%.
than Man of Steel, but like
I know.
than any superhero movie I can think of since like Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. Like it very much feels like like I toyed with the idea of like bringing Charlie to see it in the theaters. Like we're debating because it's like
Yeah.
some of the stuff, it's like the stuff with like the monster's eye is kind of gross and
Yeah.
like, but like um so I think that's part of it. Like it's a movie that's designed to appeal to as broad a demographic as
Yeah.
possible. And of course, there are people out there already complaining that it's like that it looks like a kids movie. And meanwhile, I'm like, who do you think superheroes were made for?
Yeah.
Like,
What do you think? I mean,
it's a bunch of dudes in tights.
especially Superman. I mean, of
Yeah,
all, I could see Batman, and you're like, we're gonna make a lighthearted, kind of Batman film. But like this one, it's like there's a couple scenes where I'd like question. It's probably a little too intense for my my need for Elizabeth, for the 6-year-old that I know, which now that
yeah,
makes it sound creepy. Um, but
hmm,
my friend's kid, my other friend's kid,
yeah,
and like that's like maybe a little too young. But like in like a year or two, this is to be a film, even though it's rated PG-13, right? Which is wild to me. I mean, I guess
yeah.
it
It's
makes
13.
sense, but
Well, I also feel like they're a little bit more cavalier with light swears
mhm,
than most of. Like, I actually felt like there was more like shit and damn kind of swears, like nothing
mhm.
too what, but like I felt like there was more cursing in this than in the average Marvel movie.
Yeah, I
Um,
would say definitely, yeah.
maybe it's possible I'm wrong, but like if I am wrong, it's because Superman himself is so like aw shucks wholesome,
Yeah.
and the movie kind of follows his lead that
Mhm.
whenever somebody swears, it kind of stuck out.
Yeah.
Like there's a scene where
Yeah.
Lois says, I think it's holy shit.
Yeah.
Um, and I was like struck by like, huh, that
Yeah.
really that really seemed aggressive in
Yeah.
the context of this movie.
Yeah. I would
Um,
think, I mean, other than the swear words, I don't think there's a way getting around it. There's I won't go into details. There's a scene where he's kind of like throwing something up, and I'm like, I just
oh yeah,
there's no version where that's not a PG-13. Like that's like the one
yeah,
scene I was
yeah.
like,
It's like
I'm like, I'm
low key
not.
superhero body horror kind of.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It was pretty brutal. Especially to watch Superman. You know, I mean, it's like if it's another
yeah,
character necessarily, but like watching Superman do that.
yeah.
That was like, I mean, like,
I will say,
yeah,
by the
no, you
way,
can't do that. Yeah.
going back just a second to Jimmy,
Hmm.
um, this is the weirdest like piece of trivia that I kind of internalized about this. So Skylar Gazando, or I don't know how they, who plays Jimmy Olsen in this, is
Hmm.
one of I think three kids who shared the role of young Sean Spencer in Psych.
Okay. Uh, yeah.
Um, and there were three, but one of them was way less than the other two. And the two that like did it for the show are Skylar Gisondo and a guy named Liam James.
Okay.
Um, Liam James a few years ago was in a not a superhero project, but a comic book adaptation called Deadly Class. Um,
Hmm.
and like one of the female leads in Deadly Class was Gabrielle De Faria.
Hmm.
Um, and so or uh so she, the engineer,
Yeah.
has now been randomly in comic book adaptations with two Sean Spencers.
Yeah.
Um,
Nice. That
and I'm
is
just
that
like,
is that is classic Russ Burling game esoteric
yeah,
references.
oh yeah, it's like Psych, Deadly Class, and the Superman movie. Like I'm
Exactly.
just like,
We're like now we got to figure out a way to tie it to Josie and the Pussycats, and it's like just a complete full circle.
yeah, yeah.
Wow, yeah, he
Well,
is.
technically, Parker Posey was Eve Tessmacher in Superman Returns.
There you go. Oh, that makes me sad. Anyway, um,
I will say, just like it's hard to get into this without spoilers, so
yeah,
I won't say too much. But like, I was a little torn on Eve Tessmacher for most of the movie. Um, I like they really played up the dumb blonde thing in a way that like even in Superman 78, like she was like, yeah, she was like flirting with Superman and dating Lex. She was also like obviously a good person. Like the
yeah.
Valerie Perrine version of the character was like the reason that she basically played a similar role to a different character in this movie, where it's like, okay, if not for this one decision in this one moment, the whole movie falls apart. Um, and so like I liked like I feel like Eve Tessmacher kind of got the raw deal for about two-thirds of this movie.
Yeah.
I liked the way they wrapped up her story,
Mhm.
but um, for a lot of it, felt like this is really like I didn't like the way that the character was portrayed, and it's not the actor's fault. It's entirely a script issue.
Yeah.
Um, and like I said, I think they turned it around, but I feel like it was so weird for so much of the movie that I was just like, I wasn't completely sold that one up. I feel like maybe you kind of hit the bottom of the or hit the top of the trees with that one.
Yeah.
Um,
I didn't know she was a more than just like a stand-in as a character. So I'm like, for me, I completely forget she was in that. There was that, let's see who played, I'm trying to see, was
this
it
Valerie,
Valerie
the
Perrine? Oh, yeah.
Honey Bruce from Lenny.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Um, What's funny is she was created for the 78 movie. Like
Yeah.
she didn't exist in the comics prior to that. Um, but like she was in at least three of the four Reeve movies, and she was in like the character, not Valerie, was in Superman Returns because again that was Parker Posey, and then she was played by Andrea K. Brooks on Supergirl for like four seasons.
Mhm.
So like it's funny because she's a character invented for the movie, but she's become part of the lore now.
Yeah.
Uh,
Sorry, I
which
I I stupidly clicked on a what Google was feeding me about somebody's comment on Twitter and saying it was the most sexist
uh,
portrayal of a woman they've seen on film in a while, and it's just like, okay,
yeah.
not. Anyway,
Yeah, yeah.
but you're like,
Um,
yeah, we can't say anything other than yeah. Anyway, but
yeah, well, what I will say is that like I understand why they felt that way, but it feels like saying that it's the most sexist portrayal of a woman you've seen on film in a while
yeah,
is kind of like saying that the message of Chasing Amy is that um, all lesbians really just need the right dick.
yeah,
Like that's the opposite of what the movie's going for.
yeah, yeah,
And if it didn't land for you, it didn't land for you. But like it's really ignorant to pretend like the whole third act didn't happen. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
Uh, but
Uh,
and like I said, I say that as somebody where it didn't fully land for me.
yeah,
But in any event,
yeah.
I can't think of any
I
other
just yeah,
specific non-spoiler things I want to talk about.
yeah, yeah, kind of same.
You and I are probably going to talk more about this later in the week.
Yeah, definitely. I just want to yeah emphasize to be like definitely see it in theaters. It's definitely a great theater film. I'm happy
Yeah,
the theater I go to is really weird about which theaters are filled and which aren't. Mine was like a tenth filled, which actually was kind of fantastic for me, because I like empty theaters. But it was like a great mix of like people that like laughed at a lot of inside jokes and kind of got like I feel like the crowd is understanding. I mean, it looks like the it's doing
yeah,
well anyway. So which is
yeah.
something I hate. Yeah,
The projections are still crazy. At the lower end, it's going to be it's expected to be the biggest Superman solo film opening weekend,
hmm
like because it's supposed to do better than Man of Steel at the low end.
yeah,
At the high end, it might actually beat BVS, in which case it'd be the high opening weekend for any movie Superman's ever been in.
yeah.
Um, so
Two complete failures
I
of
don't
films,
necessarily
really.
expect it.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I don't necessarily expect it to go as high as BVS because like
yeah,
that's just a lot of money in the post-COVID theatrical marketplace.
yeah,
But I certainly don't think it's impossible because again, like the enthusiasm seems to be there.
yeah.
Um, I would say like see it in the movie theater. I thought that even, like it's funny because like a lot of one of the concerns people had was like about the action because
Mhm.
obviously like Zack Snyder's action was so like bone crunching and it was really revelatory because like always been complaints about how Superman doesn't fucking punch anything in the movies.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, but like it's not the same kind of violence as in the Snyder movies. Like, certainly, it doesn't feel like each individual punch is gonna like collapse a building or something.
yeah,
But it's really like it's a high octane movie. Anytime there's an action scene, the flying stuff is really well done. The use of powers is really smart.
yeah,
There's a bit in it where I'm like where and I think it was in a trailer or something, so I can just say it. But like, there's a scene where he's being like swarmed by these like robot things,
yeah,
and he like spins around real fast and like throws them off him with centrifugal force.
yeah,
And I'm just like, how did we not get that in the Flash movie? Like,
yeah,
that's a super speed thing.
yeah.
That's a like you don't need to be flying to do that.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, it is something that like I'm really happy that I don't know if Gunn tweeted it out or somebody was responding to something that they imagined Gunn tweeted, but he kind of tweeted out something at some point that people somebody was talking about that was kind of talking about I don't need to see the pearls drop again. Was it Gunn? I don't know. I feel like this is now
yeah,
that I'm saying it out loud,
I don't know
but
if it was
like
Gunn or not, but
yeah. Like I don't need to see the pearls drop again. I don't need to see, all, basically these opening
yeah,
sequences of Uncle Ben or whatever. And I'm just like, it
yeah,
is kind of fucking great where it's just like I'm so happy we didn't need to spend the first 20 minutes of a film kind of doing some sort of origin story. Even I mean Man of Steel even
mm,
didn't really necessarily have that full origin story. Or no, they did. What am I
yeah.
talking about? Yeah, forget that. They did.
No, the
But
thing
yeah.
thing about Man of Steel is that like they made like because fact that Zack Snyder was trying to tell a first contact story.
Yeah.
And like again, that speaks to why his Superman is so alien.
Yeah.
And so it totally like that when I say that earlier, I'm not complaining. Like it's the mission statement of the movie.
Yeah.
But because it was a first contact story, like his Krypton was super well realized and like I even people who do not like that movie, I've like very rarely, if ever, heard anybody say that the Krypton stuff wasn't gorgeous.
Yeah.
Like it was really well done. It was really well realized. I think that like that scene alone probably is what sold that they should try to make the Krypton show.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I this movie's obviously very inspired, but I mean it's got a couple of inspirations. You know, Superman for All Seasons by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale is in there. Lex Luthor, Man of Steel is in there. Um, but one of the big things is All Star Superman. And in All Star Superman, um, the whole conceit of the All Star line was to like to create satisfying standalone stories that would like not be tied to mythology.
Yeah.
And so you would, you know, with All Star Batman and Robin the Boy Wonder, they were telling Robin's origin story. It's like Batman is Batman, but like you start with Dick's parents die.
Yeah.
Um, and with All Star Superman, Grant Morrison made the decision that everybody's already seen Superman's origin. We don't need to do it again. And so, for the sake of doing it, he had one page and it says Doomed Planet, Desperate Parents, uh, Kindly Couple, Superman. And
Yeah.
it was 4 panels, and that's all you need.
Hmm.
And I bring this up partly because it speaks to how this movie starts in media res, and I really like that.
Yeah.
But also because it amuses me, because I just, in order to like talk more authoritatively about this movie and its ties to All Star Superman, I
Hmm.
just reread All Star Superman. I have this nice hardcover edition that I picked up from the bookstore.
Yeah.
And on the right hand side is the first page of All Star Superman that I just described to you, where it's like a hyper minimalist version of the origin story. And the whole idea is all you need is these 4 vague concepts and you can start in.
Yeah.
On the left, directly mirroring that is a big thing put in by the third party publisher Eagle Moss, who made this hardcover,
Yeah.
that says the story so far and explains who Superman is and where he came from and what his powers are. And I'm just like, you fully missed the point of the
Yeah.
page that is millimeters from your page.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are we doing? Um,
That's what
I love that.
there's one thing I forgot that we didn't touch upon. Uh an actor that I have like always loved. He's such a great second, third, kind of Pruitt Taylor Vince as Pa Kent.
Oh
Fantastic.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Neva Howell, who's like one of
Mhm.
those actresses, like again, like I recognize her from things. As Ma Kent,
Yeah,
perfect. Like they're not in it a lot, but like so good, so well used.
yeah.
And yeah, I
I,
just
I,
can't
I
not.
do like that. I do like that John Kent gets to go through a whole movie and not die.
I know. I
Um,
was so terrified
that's
because I
nice.
there's I forget what one of the trailers, like there's like a small implication of something might happen. And I was just like, oh fucking
Well,
that actually be one of the things that would piss me off about this, like if I
yeah.
before I saw the
I
film, like I
think
think yeah.
I think people read into, because there's that scene between him and Clark where he says, Clark, what you do is more important than, or whatever. I can't remember exactly what he said, but he's basically what you do is what defines you.
Hmm.
Um, and here's the thing, like he's supposed to be an older, like farmer from the Midwest.
Yeah.
Uh, he's a very simple dude. He plays in an almost Sling Blade kind of way. Like
Yeah.
I don't think that he's certainly not implied to be developmentally disabled or anything, but he does speak very slowly. He
Yeah.
has kind of a cadence where it's or a kind of a voice where it sounds like he's chewing on something. And I think some people, without the context of the movie and seeing that that's how John is envisioned in this movie,
Hmm.
some people just heard him speaking in that ad and they're like, oh no, it sounds like he's dying. And I understand why, because like it's a very slow, deliberate, kind of chewed up way of delivering the lines. But it's not because he was like about to drop dead. It's because like that's the version of John Kent that's in this movie because they wanted to make him kind of authentically a Kansas farmer.
Yeah.
Um, And again, like all that stuff with the Kents was cool. Like I agree with you. I thought the casting was perfect. I thought Howl was really funny.
Yeah,
In her like she had a couple of beats where she got to say something kind of
yeah,
sassy. Um, and so I thought they were pretty great. But also like one of the things that James Gunn has pointed out in interviews is that like every time you see them in previous iterations, there's always the big white farmhouse like the one you saw in Smallville, and it's like that's a millionaire's house.
yeah,
Like that's and like so like the version of the Kent farmhouse that exists in this movie is like a
yeah.
converted double wide trailer.
Yeah, it's a
It's
ranch
like
or
it's a
something like that.
house,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's yeah, well, it literally is a converted double wide.
Honest.
Like they
Okay.
just built on top of it, like my dad did on that
Yeah,
house
yeah,
down the
yeah.
reservoir. Which is a reference everybody listening to the show gets, and it totally makes sense.
Yeah,
But like I like little touches like that, and I think again, to me, that speaks to the way that Gunn all the way down to things like set design, was considering,
yeah. 100%.
and so I'm certainly I'm excited to see. I think that we're probably going to see some like I can already think of some things that I think are going to be switched up a little bit for whatever his next movie is with Superman.
Yeah,
Um, and I'm like, oh, I think it'll be fun to see how he responds to the events of this movie and kind of
yeah.
um, like one thing I could say this again, like bad guys get into the fortress, and all
Mhm.
I can think is like, man, this is so heavily based on All Star Superman, and in All Star Superman they have a great like I don't know if you remember this, but in the Silver Age, like in the 60s and 70s, the key to the fortress was this giant fucking like golden arrow. And what it is
Okay.
that like back before aircraft like before there was a sophisticated radio system for keeping aircraft on course,
Hmm.
there were these big metal or wooden like arrows that would
Yeah.
literally be on the flight path to like keep the air. And like some of them still exist. You can get see pictures of them now. This is a real thing in real life.
Okay.
Um, and so back in the 50s when they first invented like the Silver Age version of the Fortress of Solitude, um, that was the key to the fortress. Is one of these big metal
Nice.
airplane like arrow things,
Yeah.
because it's like not only would it blend into the background so that nobody would ever think that it was Superman's, but
Yeah.
also nobody else can lift it.
Yeah.
So like that's the key.
Yeah.
Um, and then in All Star Superman, they had like a modernized version of this where instead of having a giant golden key, he just had a regular key under the mat, but it was made of like dwarf star material. So it was hyper dense, and Superman is the only person on the planet who could
Yeah.
like lift it.
Yeah.
Um, like Lois makes fun of him for like, do you think that's safe? What if somebody tried to get in here? And he's like, oh, just stop. Um,
Yeah.
uh, so like it's one of those like that's a beat I can totally see them doing in the next movie because like you're gonna need to change the locks.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah. No,
all
or
right.
at least
Any
figure
any
out a
final
better way
thoughts?
of doing it. No,
Sorry.
no. Or just figure out a because anyway, as trying not to do spoilers, but anyway, but
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, no, no, I
And
don't.
that's part of the
Yeah,
reason I keep pointing us towards wrapping up is because it's like
yeah,
there's more stuff I want to talk about, but it's
yeah,
going to
exactly. Yeah,
inevitably bring us down the
yeah, yeah,
road of like
yeah. No,
talking about the third act.
no, I again just dug the film. Give it some time if you're like me where you're like I'm not quite sure if I'm liking this like version or whatever.
Mm.
And it turns out fantastic. And if nothing else, enjoy crypto because he's he's the light of this film.
I love it's funny because like there were some people, and I think most of them are just like Snyder super fans
Yeah,
who
yeah.
were acting in bad faith. But there were some people who were just like, why would the dog do that when you're hurt? And it's like, you've never owned a dog.
Oh my
Like,
God. Oh my God. It's so funny. It's like literally I have my dog Bowden, who who's laying down on the floor right now. He's irritated with me that I haven't gone to bed yet. Because he wakes up at like 6:30 in the morning. And but I was doing sit-ups in the ground and he was like over me and I'm like, yeah, yeah, this is it. Like thankfully he doesn't jump on me like he does like I just love what a bad
Uh,
dog he is. It's so
yeah,
good.
yeah,
It's just so much fun. Like, but he's a good dog when
yeah,
it matters, and that's what matters because all dogs are good.
yeah, exactly.
But yeah,
Which is that reminds me of my dog, honestly. Like my dog is just a terrible dog most of the time.
yeah.
She's she's great when she needs to be.
But if you were being attacked by an
All right. Well,
Elon Musk cover, he would come to your aid.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, so everybody, I would really suggest checking this out in theaters. I think that
Mhm.
like it is the kind of movie that should be seen on a big ass screen.
Yeah.
Some people, I mean, if there's no sense of urgency, either because you're all superheroed out or because um, you're just not like super into DC or whatever, like I would say just give it a couple of weeks and go when you can get in cheap and
Yeah.
there's not a crowd
Yeah.
because it's if you're gonna watch it, it's worth watching on a big screen, but also like
Mhm.
it's just a really kind of light, fun movie. Again, like
Yeah.
people constantly say like why don't they make movies like Sam Raimi's Spider-Man or whatever anymore,
Mhm.
and it's like this is as close as you're going to get to that. Like this
I,
is in the same way that Raimi was a pretty clear line of evolution from
mhm.
Donner. This is a pretty clear evolution from Raimi.
I think that this is the closest that DC has been to what Marvel was doing 20 or whatever it was with Iron Man. These kind of
15
like
years ago. Yeah,
you didn't need to know the character. I mean, everybody knows Superman, but you didn't need to know the
yeah,
characters. You don't like Guy Gardner doesn't matter. You know, like all these things,
yeah.
it doesn't matter. Nothing matters in this film. Maybe it'll matter in a film or two or whatever. But like, I
Mhm.
think my mom, I literally should actually ask her. She, she had gone to see it today as well. She's down in Florida, and she's like, I saw somebody walking out of the theaters in Superman, full Superman pajamas, and I didn't know that she
Yeah.
was in Florida, and I was like, is that Russ? But anyway,
I'll say this, by the way, before we wrap, just because you mentioned it. Gunn, during an interview today, said something along the lines of like, these movies are going to be a lot more standalone than you're used to from Marvel.
mhm,
Because while we do exist in an interconnected universe, there's no big story that we're building to.
yeah,
Like, we're not trying to get to the Avengers movie. We're not trying to get to the Justice League movie. Like, we're telling a bunch of stories, and then, like, if some of them are bigger than others, so be it. And to me, I think that is the healthiest approach that he could possibly take
yeah,
because it allows you to jettison dead weight without ruining your entire plan.
yeah,
It allows you to pivot and feature people who stand out in a project that works. And so like not only do I think that's good for casuals because it's like you can go see Superman and not fucking worry about whether or not you've seen Peacemaker, you
yeah,
know. But also like I think it's good for the brand because I do think that and again like this is not a groundbreaking observation. I think everybody in the world said it at one point or another, but I think that the rush to get to Justice League and the rush to catch up with Marvel was a huge lag of the
yeah.
previous iteration of DC's film
Yeah.
universe.
I mean, but also Marvel is in the same
Avid-
position right now where they
yeah,
fucked themselves when the fact that they basically retired everyone, all of the people that like really brought the original series together. And now they're, anyway, I won't get
yeah,
up. We can talk at a different point about
yeah.
the
We'll talk.
insanity
I'm
of,
sure we'll end up talking a lot about
yeah,
that in a couple of weeks
yeah,
when Fantastic Four comes out.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, really happy with this movie. I'm sure we'll talk more about it soon. But
Mhm.
go see it and be back by noon on the fifth day for more Emerald City video. Always remember to rewind your cassettes.